So taking a step back, moving into VS Code for a bit here. If you're just getting started with the project and you're having questions about, hey, I want to make some changes, but I don't even understand the structure of the project. I don't even understand where to go to make changes. At a high level, everything is in the source folder. All the source code resides here. Um, we have some high-level apps that have some varying degrees of complexity and logic that control different aspects. So, of course, the game is just some sort of boilerplate that loads the KotORjs library, loads the game files, and then runs the game loop. Most of that code, though, does exist inside of the source files here, but this is mostly just a skeleton boilerplate to load that. Now, Forge, on the other hand, our built-in modding tool, it's a React application. It can also interface with the KotORjs library, but it has a lot more code inside of this actual application. So you can get to the more of the meat and potatoes for that application inside of here. But if we're staying focused on the game itself, if we go into game, you can see that we have an index.ts. Very minimal code here. Most of this stuff is just sort of setting up some different minimal React stuff to start the game, but we have our states and our app state. Now this is where we're bringing in the KotORjs library. We're setting up some initialization, determining which game we want to target, whether it's TSL or KotOR. This is where that EULA gets prompted. And then we're down here, we're loading the game directory. This is where we prompt for the user to locate their game install directory if that's not present in local storage. And then goes from different things, and we begin game, show some loader messages, and then we begin the initialization process. But like I said, most of this is just boilerplate. The main logic rests inside the KotORjs library itself. So if we want to go down into so most of the logic that runs the game loop is inside of this game state file. This is sort of a singleton class that loads up a lot of various classes that are going to be used. And then these are statically assigned to this game state. So for instance, if you wanted to reference the appearance manager, you would import game state into some other class, and you would call game state.appearance manager, and from there you could get access to its other classes or its methods inside of that class. Once we get past the initialization of the game state, we do some various loadings through init, and then the main loop is down in game state update. So if we scroll on down here, here's the start method. This is the load module method. So anytime we move into another module via a save game or warping through a door, this gets called, and this runs through all the various logic needed to save the current session in the current game folder, and then load up the new module that we're warping to. So here's our update method. Update for it really is, this ticks every frame. So we use the JavaScript request animation frame to control our frame timings. This is actually fixed to your resolution's refresh rate. So if you have a 60 hertz monitor, the game will try to refresh at 60 frames per second. If you have a 144 hertz monitor, it will also try to do the exact same thing. So with this, we don't actually have fine-grained control over the frame timings. We're relying on the web tabs painting methodology to actually control that timing, and we're just piggybacking off of that process. So at the very top, we queue up another frame. We're going to tell it it's going to call update again, and then so on and so on, and this just keeps calling itself over and over again based on the frame scheduling that happens through request animation frame. We have various game modes here. So we have, if you look into engine modes, we see we have loading, GUI, in-game, minigame, dialogue, free look, movie, and legal. Um, Based on the different modes that the game state gets placed into, it will branch off and call different update loops. So for instance, if we're in game, we've loaded into a game save, we're going to be using the engine mode um, in game. So when we do that, we scroll on down, find this switch statement for an engine mode in game, then all of that update logic is inside of here. If we go to update in game, you can see that every frame tick when we're in game, all the logic inside of this method gets called. If you wanted to actually dig into what's going on inside of the world, um, KotOR levels are broken up into modules and then areas inside of them. The legacy for the Odyssey engine goes back to the Aurora engine, which was based on which was built for Neverwinter Nights, which was based on Dungeons and Dragons. So with that, you had modules and areas, but modules could have more than one area. But when they moved a lot of this logic into the Odyssey engine, kind of piggybacking on a lot of that work they'd already developed for the other games, we still have this legacy of a module and area system, but unlike Neverwinter Nights games, KotOR modules only ever have one area inside of them. So you have a module and one area packed with it. So if we were to go inside of this module here, if we go to the tick method, so when every frame, this module is going to tick, and then it's going to run through all of the stuff that it has associated with that tick loop. And then if it has an area associated with it, which it always will, we can go into the update loop for the area. And then inside of here, we're going to loop over all the triggers, the encounters, the area of effects, the party, the creatures, the placeables, the doors, and so on and so on, and perform those update ticks on every one of those game objects. And that will also run through their AI if they have any AI associated with them. Anything else going on, tick timers that may be associated with those various actions in queue, and then keep looping through this every frame until we dispose of this level and move on to another level. So this has been sort of a quick run through of the KotORjs engine, where some of the high level concepts are that you may be interested in. And from here, you can dig down further to find the various aspects you're actually looking for to make changes or understand how they work.